local and international newspaper headlines for the day with in-depth analysis from seasoned professionals. Start your day the right way on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info.
It's Christmas Eve. Welcome to 99.3 Nigeria Info, and it's time to look at the stories across the papers today. If you'd like to join us, please head over to Facebook and YouTube, where we're live right now, and you can watch us there, and also leave us your comments and thoughts on the headlines that interest you. You can reach us also on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM, and you can also reach us on all of those platforms with your thoughts and comments. You're welcome to the show. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. Very lovely morning to you, Lagos. Let's take a look at the papers that we have this morning. Daily Independent is here on the table. These days also here. Vanguard as well as the Nation newspaper.
And here I have the Guardian newspaper, our media partner. I also have the Daily Trust, the Punch newspaper, and the Daily Sun. Well, if you're ready, let's kick start. There's a big headline here on the front page of The Guardian. Nigeria's economy under siege over bad government choices. Who says this? There are two riders in this one here. Recurrent expenditure takes 95% revenue. Budgetary production plunges by 218 billion naira in 1 month. This is on the front page of The Guardian.
Right.
And you can read details right there. Well, let me see. Who says this? It's a breakdown of a lot of figures. And it reads here, the country's quest to overcome growth and development challenges will remain a mirage as priorities, as the government continues to prioritize huge consumption above capital investment. That's according to a report by the CBN.
Right.
In November, the federal government spent 95.9% of its resources on statutory transfers. That's 7.2%. Recurrent expenditure, 88.7%, leaving just a paltry 4.1% for capital projects. So there's also an economic report released in November, and it shows that, we're just spending money on recurrent expenditure, basically.
Right.
Summarily. And this, according to the CBN report, is not helping the economy
at all. Moving on to Daily Independent newspaper. New minimum wage. Governors insist on urgent review of revenue sharing formula. That's on the front page. Banner headline from Daily Independent newspaper. It comes with three riders. Move to resolve Ganduje Emir Sanusi dispute. Abdulsalami Obakar chairs reconciliation committee. NGF wades into Wike, Dixon, Obaseki, Oshomole rows. Plenty people fighting one another in the political space today. Publicly. That's on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper for you this morning.
Well, another one here, staying with the Guardian newspaper. No Nigerian territory under Boko Haram control, says Defense Headquarters. And if you've been on social media, you've probably I've seen video of shots being fired. Just very scary stuff. And I believe Damaturu was trending some days ago. But the Defense Headquarters says no Nigerian territory is under Boko Haram control. Let's look at page 3 for that story. And there's a rider on page 3 that reads, hints of speedy rescue of abducted aid workers in Northeast. Now, the Defense Headquarters has denied the presence of Boko Haram and ISWAP, that's Islamic State for West African Province terrorists, in any part of Nigeria. The denial followed the rumored takeover of towns in Borno by sects of the members of the sects. In fact, I saw people on social media saying, Borno is under siege, please come to our rescue. But they say here, Boko Haram is not holding any inch of our territory. They have been pushed down to the island between Nigeria and neighboring Chad and Cameroon, and that is where they come from to attack soft targets. That is coming from the Acting Director, Defense Information, Brigadier General Onyema Uwachuku. And there's a related story here on the Daily Trust, why we have not rescued Leah Sharibu. Also coming from the Defense Headquarters. You might want to find out why. Let me give you a summary of the reason. The Defense HQ says Leah Sharibu and some aid workers kidnapped by the Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast have not been rescued, as troops are cautious not to put the captives' lives in danger. This again is coming from the Acting Director, Defense Information, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, and he said this while addressing journalists yesterday in Abuja. Sharibu was among the over 100 students kidnapped by the terrorists at the government's Girls Science and Technical College in Dapchi, Yobe State, February 2008.
For those just joining us, you're welcome. James Dachi on Facebook is watching us from Ikorodu. Agugo is also watching from Lagos. And yes, Okoye is joining us from Harrison, New Jersey, and he says Merry Christmas to everybody here. Go on our
Why
Facebook.
aren't you home? Saying it's nice to see everything at home. You should be part of the IJGBs. But thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Drop your comments as regards any headline that jumps out at you on our Facebook portal, Nigeria Info 99.3. Moving on to the Nation newspaper on the program this morning. Banner headline on the front page of the paper. You could, before we get to the banner, there are captions of the protest yesterday, the pro and anti-Buhari protest yesterday on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And it goes, clash of protesters, anti-Omoyele Sowore protesters left. If you are looking at us via Facebook, you could see that. Pro-Sowore protesters at the National Assembly right. Okay. That's on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Moving on to other stories. Governors, why we want revised revenue formula. That's on the front page of the Nation newspaper. NGF Chairman Fayemi, we have bigger responsibilities. States reject federal government's handouts. That's on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Governors are pushing for a review of the revenue allocation formula because states bear heavier burdens. Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, said yesterday. NGF Chairman Quadry Fayemi said states no longer want handouts from the federal government, but request to be allocated what should be their entitlement. What is their entitlement? There is an extant formula of the revenue sharing. In Nigeria, federal government will always get 52.68%. States get 26.72% of whatever comes in per month. And councils, that's local government areas, get 20.60%. And they are recommending to the federal government, the state's governors now, recommending to the federal government that the center should get 35%, states should get 42%, and councils should get 23%. They are sharing.
Well, we're sharing. I mean, that's what we do. Money coming from few states goes to the center, and then everyone comes and take their own portion and takes it back to their states. I'm not sure how long more we can sustain that. But staying with the protest yesterday, there are pictures on the front page of the Punch newspaper. If you also open the Daily Trust, there's a photo here, a very worrisome photo on page 3 that shows someone kicking Deji Adeyanju's head. I don't know who this person is, but this caption reads, human rights activist Deji Adeyanju being attacked by alleged pro-government protesters during the protest he organized for the release of prisoners of conscience in Abuja yesterday. And he's on the floor on his hands and knees while someone is kicking him on the head and some other people attacking him. I mean, I don't understand. If you also look at the front page of the Punch, he's also seen on his knees and hands on the floor. And the place looks pretty rowdy. The headline here, thugs attack Abuja anti-government protest, brutalize activists. There's a photo of some of the protesters holding their placards, which reads, we shall defend our mandate at all costs. That's what they're all saying. And it looks like they are pro-government protesters. I mean, I believe that everyone should have freedom to protest. If you think you have a counter-protest, show up there, just stay across the road while they're doing that protest. You do yours across the road and everyone can go home peacefully. But attacking one another, and there are allegations that there were policemen around there. If you look at page 42 of the Punch, well, absolutely. Paragraph 2 here reads, the attack happened despite the presence of policemen who were unable to manage the situation. The activists had gathered at the National Human Rights Commission headquarters in Maitama, Abuja, to present a letter said the executive secretary of the commission when they were attacked by the hoodlums who were carrying a large banner with the inscription, "Support Buhari, say no to saboteurs."
Indeed. Let's stay with related story regarding that particular event. Vanguard newspaper front page. Why I won't hear Shore's suit against DSS. That's the judge withdraws from suit, returns case file to CJ. Commotion as opposing CSOs clash in Abuja over Shore. Others. Vanguard correspondent Luminous Janamike Adeyanju. Others injured. That's how chaotic that particular event was yesterday. Moving on now to another story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, and this story is quite common to all the papers this morning. UTME holds March 14, April 4 JAMB. Is speaking there. Rider wants candidates not to allow parents access to passwords. Vanguard newspaper. Yeah.
Wanting candidates not to allow their parents to have access
to passwords.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay,
Vanguard,
actually, your password should be yours alone.
It is yours alone.
Actually.
From the front page of the Nation newspaper, 2020 UTME registration begins January 13. Rider exams for March 14. That's on the front page of the Nation newspaper. From Daily Independent, JAM sets March, April 2020 tentative date for UTME. Rider insists national identity number mandatory to sit for exams. That's from the Daily Independent newspaper.
If you're wondering about their parents not having their passwords, well, there's something JAM has to say about this, and I'm going to quote from page 39 of the Punch, where they're saying the board has banned all third-party interactions on its portal for any of its services, majorly between candidates and their parents or their guardians. Consequently, nobody, including parents or guardians or any proxy, would have access to transact any business on the candidate's profile because fingerprints would be required. I think that's very good. JAM revealed that a total of 472,332 candidates had so far been offered admission on CAPS in 2019. And like you heard in the headline, the names used by candidates for the National Identity Number registration would strictly be the names used for the UTME, adding that those with biometric failure issues nationwide should report to JAM headquarters in Abuja. Wow, why do they all have to come to Abuja? Wow, to be attended to. Let me quote the registrar, who says each candidate must have obtained the NIN, that's NIN, as earlier directed by JAM. The mobile number used for NIN enrollment can be used by one candidate only, and the cell phone number used for sending NIN messages is automatically tied to the candidate's name supplied by NIMC. Well, I remember that the lawmakers were saying that, they should shelve the use of NIN because of the time. Mm-hmm. But since no instruction was particularly given, no law was made to that effect. Everything. I hope you're all fine. Everyone planning to write JAM.
Proceeding as planned.
Yeah, as planned. As planned.
Indeed. Let's look at other headlines this morning, and it's related to education as well. Abductors of WAEC official, 3 others in Ondo demand 20 million naira. That's on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper. Let's take a look at that story this morning. Kidnapping is quite a big business. It has turned into a whole industry in Nigeria, really. Abductors of WAEC official, 3 others in Ondo demand 20 million naira. Adebayo Ogbenga, an official of the West Africa Examination Council WAEC, and 3 others are yet to identify. 3 others yet to be identified were on Monday reportedly kidnapped by gunmen at Obakoko along Owo Akoko Road, Akoko South local government area. Sources reveal that Adebayo was abducted while taking his son to Adekunle Ajasin University, Akoko, over the weekend. He was said to have been crossed and forced to stop by some unknown gunmen with other vehicles on the road. But his friend who accompanied him escaped, with his son having quickly jumped out of the car and run into the bush. So it was a targeted kidnapping.
Yeah, kidnaps are usually, most times, they know who they're coming for. But very unfortunate. We hope that he's kept safe and found. We had a conversation about the Ondo missing child, and it's still on the front page. If you check the Daily Trust, is right here. Ondo missing child, Church General Overseer, 6 others remanded. Church General Overseer, 6 others remanded. Remember that we spoke with the General Overseer's lawyer on the show that day. We also spoke with the police PRO in Ondo State, who told us that they've been investigating, and they've also been sending messages to the other commands to look for the child. We also gathered that the General Overseer is currently with the DSS, and we asked, why is it with the DSS? The police PRO then told us that, well, he can't answer for that. But if you look at this story, on page 26 of the Daily Trust, and Eda Akure Magistrate Court in Ondo State has remanded the founder and General Overseer of Shoti Tobire Miracle Center, Prophet Alpha Babatunde, at the Olokuta Correctional Center in Akure for alleged conspiracy to kidnap and allegedly aiding kidnapping. How? Why? Well, also remanded with him were Omodara Olayinka, Margaret Oyebola, Grace Ogunjobi, Muturayo Ogunjobi, Esther Kayode, and Peter Anjori, described as members of Babatunde's church. I somehow think these were some of those at the children's church, I think. Now, the defendants were arraigned before Magistrate Charity Adenyoju by the DSS. Why? Why not by the police? And the police is still they're still having their investigation. I'm going to see how this will go. So, would the police then, when their investigation is on, if they also need to charge him, go bring him from prison? Would he be facing two trials at once? Why is the DSS in this? They were charged with conspiring to commit felony, kidnapping a 13-month-old, and actually aiding the kidnap. Really? How? Who investigated this?
Let's leave that for the court of law to sort out.
This had better be fair. And I would have expected that the judge would be clear that this was no DSS territory. If the police had charged them to court, I mean, that's allowed. But I don't know. Well,
let's take a look at the comments coming in on Facebook. Sheikh Yakub said, can you see the comment here? Punch Nigeria continues to project Nigeria in bad image because of their selfish interest, and Nigeria Info keep airing such while people outside the country keep hearing the bunkum thinking that's the claim the main event in the country, not knowing that Nigerians see good in the projected evil of both media houses.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So which of the stories of the Punch do you have an issue with, and which of those stories would you rather that we don't read?
Yeah.
And which of those I don't understand. I really wish you could expatiate. That's Sheikh Yakub. Do you have an issue with the Punch? I think you should go
apparently he does.
Grind it out with them.
Apparently he does.
We are taking all the stories from all the papers. If you have an issue with one paper, please go study with them.
And if you've been listening, you see that it's not just Punch we're reading all morning. So really,
I know what you're talking about. And if you think that some stories project the country in a bad light, well, those are the stories on the front pages. Or would you rather not hear the stories there? Daily Trust banner headline: federal government uncertain on January border reopening. So the border might not open in January, guys. Joint patrol with neighbors yet to start. That's a rider here on the Daily Trust. The federal government said yesterday that it is yet to decide the date for the reopening of Nigeria's land borders. The government had in August. It looks like we've even adjusted. Nigerians can adjust.
Yeah.
This happened in August.
We do that a lot, don't we?
Looks like everything is okay now.
We do that a lot.
The country's borders with Niger, Benin, Cameroon, and Chad had been closed since August in an exercise codenamed Operation Exercise Swift Response. And January might not be the day to reopen them.
Indeed. Looking at Daily Independent once more. Front page headline: disquieting presidency over Magu's tenure. That's right. Despite endorsing him, we are in the dark. Sage. Magu a superior citizen, Fowler an inferior one. Afenifere making that claim.
That's so
that's
so
that's
nice.
the headline from The Daily Independent newspaper. Let's take a look at this story. The continued silence of President Muhammadu Buhari over the fate of Ibrahim Magu, acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is raising eyebrows in the presidency, according to Daily Independent. Credible sources told Daily Independent that they are in the, that's on page 10, they are in the dark, most especially because they said they are in the dark earlier on the front page. Okay, now we're here. We're here now. Yeah, I said it. They're in the dark as to why the president is yet to make a decision on whether Magu's tenure will be renewed or whether he will be replaced. Magu was appointed on November 11, 2015 by President Muhammadu Buhari, but the 8th Senate declined to clear him. He has been working in acting capacity since then. According to Daily Independent sources, the situation is more worrisome given the fact that Abatunde Fala, former chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, whose tenure ended on December 8th, was immediately replaced by the president the next day.
We have joining us on Facebook, Aurora from Ayabo says, I used to think PDP politicians are desperate until APC came on board. Then I realized that the devil you know is better than the AGL you don't know. Says Nigeria don't be in the hand of these politicians. Ikechi James AK says Merry Christmas to you. Mark Elijah says is watching us from Surulere. Thank you so much. Rafael Adegoke says the DSS is a stronghold that can hardly crack. It's difficult to break them. Alfred Adebayo says good morning. You guys are doing a great job and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all. We also have joining us Real One Sani who says compliments from Ikorodu. Thank you. Ojuade Abidin. Merry Christmas to you too. Olusegun David Ajala is joining us from Ikeja. Thank you. Godwin Abun Nimye. Merry Christmas to you too. Shoneko Olawale. Merry Christmas. Ibizamako Mike is watching from Japan. Thanks for joining. Joseph is watching from Abuja. Thank you for joining. Dr. Mrs. Ma Olibara from Owerri is saying that we should reflect on the purpose of Christmas.
Indeed. Let's move on quickly now to the front page of the Nation newspaper. Boko Haram no longer operating in Nigeria, says Defense Headquarters. That's on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Now, this next story is quite big. Soku oil wells for rivers. Wike fires back at Dixon. The two governors have been back and forth as regards the territorial oil wells belonging to those states. I remember very well, this is a story I'm familiar with. During the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, these oil wells were ceded to Bayelsa State. And now the case went to court. The former governor, Chibike Amici, took this case to court, and the court ruled that those oil wells should be returned to rivers. And the state governors will not keep quiet over it. Wike, as we know, is in the PDP. Silva himself is also in the APC, as a matter of fact. Saraki Dixon is one of the PDP, and these two PDP governors have been back and forth over the oil wells.
You're talking about oil. That's money there. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth. I love this story on page 6 of the Daily Sun as we round up. Senate mulls radical police reforms. Listen, this is a part I love. If you read the Police Act, you see that there are so many things that's wrong. So many things wrong. Now, there's a bill that seeks to amend the Police Act, Cap 919, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, by expunging the gender discriminatory provisions of regulations 122, 123, 124, and 127. If you read this, 122 restricts female police officers assigned to General Duties Branch of the NPF, the only thing they're meant to do, which is why you wouldn't see a female police officer with a gun. Mm-hmm. The things they're assigned to do is just to pick the telephone, clerical and office orderly duties. That will be amended. 123 also prohibits women police from drilling under arms. They're not trained to carry arms. 124 mandates female police officers to apply for permission to get married. While the intending fiance is also investigated for criminal records. This is not done for their male counterpart.
No.
It's also stipulated that a policewoman who is single at their time of enlistment must spend 3 years in service before applying for permission to marry. Imagine. And also, 127, an unmarried police officer there's a discriminatory treatment for an unmarried police officer who becomes pregnant. So if you're a police officer, you're female, you get pregnant and you're not married, there is something not right about how you're going to be treated. If you look more, there's also a place where a married woman cannot be employed into the police service, only single.
You have to be single,
You have to
and
be
you have
single.
to remain single for about
For
3
3
years.
years. Really? I like that they're looking into this, and amendment is coming up. That conversation is coming up. It is absolutely fabulous. We're wrapping up now. We're coming back after this very short break, and we're still taking 2019 in retrospect. So many big things happened this year. Yesterday we talked about the human rights violations throughout the year.
Right.
Today we're looking at elections. All the elections that happened this year. Can you guys remember the February general election? Oh wow.
Yep.
Oh wow. Nigeria Info gave you extensive coverage of all of those elections, and we're reminding you of the important and big highlights from those elections and what we can take going forward. That will be after the break. Join us again. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
We need more time for newspapers headlines.
What is wrong with you? What's the matter with you?
No, I'm just asking an honest
Let me give you guys the
question.
gist. No, I won't tell you. No, I won't do you. No, I won't tell you.
You said
let's tell them tomorrow.
You wanted to give them
Let's
a
tell them
gist.
tomorrow, Christmas Day. Merry Christmas! Oh! Something big. We have a surprise for you on the Morning Crossfire, and I
Right.
promise you that you would love it.
No, you will not even see this one coming. You can't see this one
I
coming.
feel
There's
like
no
dabbing.
way.
How can I
You
dab?
can guess all you want, but you will not see this one.
Dabbing. We're back with more after the break. Make sure to join us again. We might just tell you our surprise tomorrow on Christmas Day. Maybe, just maybe. See you soon. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry.